The third source of Unitarian Universalism is wisdom from the world's religions which inspire us in our ethical and spiritual life. In the back of our sanctuary are banners from various religions. We have the banner with the flaming chalice, which is the symbol of Unitarian Universalism. And we have the banners for Christianity and Judaism, the religions that we grew out of. But we also have the symbols for Taoism, Hinduism, Buddhism, and Baha'i. And these are religions that most Americans are unfamiliar with. And what they do know is largely misinformation. Unitarian Universalists have tried to learn from these religions rather than ridicule them. Universalists believe that all people are saved. Thus, we have never tried to prove that the other religions are false. We believe that other religions can inspire people to live an ethical and spiritual stuff. Some people think that this country was founded on Christianity. They are wrong. That is factually untrue. The Constitution is our founding document. It does not mention God. The First Amendment of the Constitution begins, "Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof." Religious was advocated in the U.S. by self-proclaimed Unitarian Thomas Jefferson. He wrote the Virginia Statute for Religious Freedom in 1777. And in his autobiography, written in 1821, Jefferson recalled the debate in the Virginia legislature. He wrote, "Where the preamble declares that coercion is a departure from the plan of the holy author of creation, an amendment was proposed by inserting the words Jesus Christ, so that it would read, a departure from the plan of Jesus Christ, the holy author of our religion. The insertion was rejected by a great majority in proof that they meant to comprehend within the mantle of protection the Jew, the Gentile, the Christian, the Mohammedan, the Hindu, and infidel of every denomination." Jefferson thought that even those perceived to be infidels were to be protected, and his peers agreed. We, as a nation, have elected a man who has called for the banning of Muslims in our country. We, as Unitarian Universalists, must resist this idea. Anyone who takes serious the promise of America must resist this. I've heard that this is being walked back, but we must continue to fight against this idea. We must not hate any person. If we hate any person, our phrase of standing on the side of love is void and emptiness. But we should hate any vile idea that proceeds from any person. And so we must stand with our principles of religious freedom and stand with those who may be facing oppression. And as a religious minority in this country, we are a religious minority because we have chosen the path of tolerance rather than the path of exclusive truth. we should stand in solidarity with those who may be under physical attack. Muslims have been in this country since before the founding, contributing and making us great. For we are great not in our proclamations of greatness, but only when our actions live up to our idealistic words. Liberty and justice for all mean nothing if it is denied to anyone. An article entitled Islam in America appears on the website of the PBS show The History Detectives. And it notes that when Columbus made the journey in 1492, he took along with him a book written by Portuguese Muslims who navigated to the New World in the 12th century. A Muslim named Istefan was a guide for the Spanish in the 16th century as they explored what is now New Mexico and Arizona. And among 10 to 15% of the slaves imported from Africa were Muslims. They had to practice in secret. And an enclave of Africans on the coast of Georgia maintained their religion until the early 20th century. According to the Center for Immigrant Studies, in an article by Khalid Duran and Daniel Pipes, migration of people from the Middle East was slow in the 19th century. And then immigration from non-European countries was banned in the United States from 1924 to 1965. Since then, it has been allowed, and Muslims tend to live in the major metropolitan areas where immigrants have historically congregated. Many of these centers have a specific ethnic quality. California has especially many Iranians. Los Angeles may have the second largest Iranian population of any city after Tehran. Texas has a majority of South Asians. The Midwestern Triangle of Cleveland, Detroit, and Chicago has mostly Arabs and American blacks, though Chicago has a near plurality of East Europeans, Albanians, Bosnians, and Turks. Detroit has the country's largest concentration of Arabs, mostly Lebanese and Iraqis, Palestinians, and Yemenis, a legacy of the days when Henry Ford employed and imported Lebanese laborers. The Muslim immigrants of recent years boast exceptionally high levels of education. A 1999 survey found that 52% of them have a graduate degree. South Asians appear to be the best educated of all. A relatively high level of education results in part from the Muslim community in North America drawing disproportionately from the elites. Very often it is the best educated who come to settle in the United States and Canada. Another minority world religion in the United States is Buddhism. In an article, How Buddhism Came to the West, Maya Dur writes, Buddhism first came to North America through Chinese immigrants who settled in the western parts of the United States beginning in the 1840s. In the latter part of the 1800s, the influence of Buddhist thought began showing up in the literary works of Walt Whitman, Henry Thoreau, and Ralph Waldo Emerson. The World Parliament of Religions, held in 1893 in conjunction with the Chicago's World Fair, was a key event in the transmission of Buddhism to the West. Japanese Zen master Shakuson was one of the participants. 3 of his students went on to help establish Buddhism in the U.S., including D.T. Suzuki, author of An Introduction to Zen Buddhism. In 1898, the Buddhist Mission of America was established by members of the Pure Land School, also called Shin Buddhism, of Japanese Buddhism. The internment of more than 100,000 Japanese American citizens during World War II was a serious impediment to the development of this institution, but it eventually became the Buddhist Churches of America, and today is one of the largest and most stable Buddhist communities in the country. The Transcendentalists mentioned in Duer's article also introduced their interpretations of Hinduism to the U.S. But when did people from India actually start arriving? According to the Hindu American Foundation, from 1,700 people in 1900, the Hindu population in America grew to approximately 387,000 by 1980. And as of 2008, the estimated U.S. population of Hindus of Indian origin is approximately 2.29 million. For Hindus, this election has been nothing less than historic. For the first time, there are 4 Hindu members of Congress. The incumbent Tulsi Gabbard of Hawaii is joined by first-time winners Pramila Jayapal of Washington, Raul Khanna of California, and Raja Krishnamurthy of Illinois, and Ami Bera, the first ever Indian American to be elected to the U.S. Senate, Kamala Harris. According to immigration policy, the majority of post-1965 arrivals were young, educated, urban dwellers with strong English skills. And they share the same demographic characteristics as Muslims, and are often confused for Muslims. And not all immigrants from India are Hindu. Many are Muslims and Sikhs and Jains. And much of the violence against Hindus and Sikhs have been because ignorant Americans have mistaken them for Muslims. After a Sikh temple was terrorized by a white American Christian in 2012, a man named Eric Carson wrote, "I was going to post something that would tell you the difference between Hindus, Sikhs, and Muslims. But I realized you don't need to know anything about someone's religion to know that you shouldn't shoot them." I encourage us to become involved in groups that protect religious freedom. In West Lafayette, we have a chapter of the American Civil Liberties Union. This organization was founded by Roger Baldwin in 1920. And when they meet here at the Unitarian Universalist Church at Tippecanoe. And I posted on my Facebook page some information for them, and I will post that information when I post this sermon. And we worked with them this fall when they did a Black Lives Matter presentation at the West Side Library. And then when I was at Pride Fest, I met a representative from another group that advocates religious freedom, America's United for the Separation of Church and State. They currently only have a chapter in Indianapolis, but plan to expand to our area in 2017. And hopefully they will contact us. They have our information to do a forum sometime in the spring when they're ready to make their efforts. This is a group that I worked with when I was in North Carolina. It's a very good group that works to remind people that our government should be neutral when it comes to religious expression. We, too, are a minority religion. Our practices about marriage have been resisted. We have had a victorious year, but now we fear that we may lose the gains that we have gained. Our acceptance of science is under attack when people have faith-based delusions about the lack of global warming, the lack of evolution. And our universalism is under attack. It is under attack by people who openly profess homophobia, racism, sexism. But it's also under attack from within. Because our lizard brain, when we feel attacked viciously, we want to attack back just as viciously. It is human. Well, it's not even human. It is animal. And we are, as humans, are animal, and we have to admit that. But if we truly profess to be universalists, we have to follow that adage of the first Christian, to love your enemies. That does not mean love their ideas, agree with them. But that means engage. And if you're at the far left, you don't need to engage someone at the far right. That conversation is probably not going to go anywhere. But if you engage the person here, and they engage the person here, and they engage the person here, find someone you can talk to who's a little bit different than you, who you can talk to without screaming, or as I yelled at Amy French last night and then immediately apologized. Be able to yell at and be safe with each other, to be in that struggle with each other because you love each other. Because without that human interaction, without that attempt to be compassionate and to really truly be loving, nothing's going to change. And in effect, that is the sermon I should have preached on this Sunday, regardless of who wins. Because the country would be still just as divided if a percentage, half a percentage, went either way in many places. Because regardless of an election, this country is spiritually sick. And we, as universalists, have a cure. But we have to cure ourselves first. And find in our strength, if we believe that love trumps hate, we need to be loving in our resistance. And it's hard to resist hateful ideas of racism, sexism, homophobia, fear of immigrants. But we always must focus on the ideas and not the people who have these fears. The idea is that by engaging, they will be less afraid of us and hopefully less afraid of the people that we are advocating for. There is an old phrase, silence equals death. It came up during the AIDS crisis, and it was the idea that people should be out and they should not be ashamed. And it was dangerous to come out as someone with HIV back in the 80s, because it meant you were going to be shunned. It meant there was going to be, your life was going to be much harder than if you kept things a secret. But being silent in the face of evil ideas, we can't be silent. And it can be frightening, but we have to speak. And I'm so glad that people have their bright yellow shirts. And when you're standing on the side of love shirt and people ask what it means, talk about who you are for and not who you are against, because ultimately we shouldn't be against anyone. We should hope that anybody who is hateful can find the pathway to love. If we truly believe that people shouldn't be thrown away, we shouldn't start our efforts by discounting and throwing away people. It's not enough to resist evil. We need to overcome evil with good by building networks of hope and cooperation between religions. There is a Christian community in this town that is open to other faiths, and we have the presence of other faiths that we can work with to build a trust that cannot be broken by the current state of fear. Let us listen. Let us listen as the band will play "What If God Was One of Us," and actually think of that. Look in the faces of everyone, the people you like and dislike, and say, how do I treat that person as if they're holy? That is a challenge I set before you today. May we bless and be blessed.